Alright, so in this video we are going to be working with fractions, decimals, and percents. More specifically, we're going to be changing percents into decimals, decimals back into percents, and fractions into percents. So this first one that we're going to be using is we're going to be changing percents into decimals. So there's one easy specific way to do it. So you would remove the percent and move the decimal point 2 digits to the left. That's all that it is. That's all you have to do to change a percent into a decimal. Essentially, what you're doing is you are dividing by 100. Essentially, you are dividing by 100. So, let's look at this first example. We have 16%. The decimal point that we have is after the 6, so it's 16 and the decimal point. So all that we would have to do is to start the decimal point here and move it 2 digits to the left. So the decimal point will be right here. So our 16% as a decimal is 0.16 or 16 hundredths. Now let's look at the next one. We have 9%. Again, the decimal point is right after the 9. All you have to do is move it 2 spots to the left. So if we start here, 1 here, 1 here. Remember, or you can think of this little extra spot as a 0. So when we write the answer, we have 0.09, or you can think of it as 9 hundredths. So now it's your turn. What I want you to do is to pause the video, change these percents into decimals. Unpause the video when you're ready to see what I've done. Alright, so if we have 78%, remember our decimal point is after the 8 over to the right. All we have to do is move the decimal point 2 spots to the left. When we do that, we end up with 0.78 or 78 hundredths. So let's look at the one on the right. We have 1%. The decimal point is to the right of the 1. All you have to do, move it 2 places to the left. Remember this open space, we need to fill it with a 0. So what we have is 0.01 or 1 hundredth is the answer. So you may come across numbers that are smaller than 1% and greater than 100%. So all I really want you to do when you're changing a percent into a decimal, still take away the percent sign and then move the decimal point 2 places to the left. So if we have 0.7%, all we would have to do is to move the decimal point, which is right here, move it 2 places to the left. 1, 2, and we still have to add in that 0 right there. So we will have 0.007, or that's read as 7 thousandths. Now let's move to the right where we have 523%. Remember, we have our decimal point after the 3. Move it 2 places to the left, right in between the 5 and the 2. So we would have 5 23 hundredths. So what I want you to do is to pause the video and to try these two at the bottom. We have 3 hundredths percent and we have 20%. So let's see here. We have 3 hundredths percent. What we do, take away the percent sign, move the decimal point 2 places to the left. So if we do that, add in that extra 0. So we would have 0.0003. So our answer would be 300 thousandths. Now let's look at the one on the right. We have 200%. Remember, we have our decimal point right here after the 0 right at the end. All we have to do, take away the percent sign, move the decimal point 2 places to the left. So all that we would have is 2.00, which is also equal to 2. So 2 is our final answer. Now when you're changing decimals to percents, it's basically the same concept as changing the percents into decimal, but we are now going to be moving the decimal point 2 digits to the right, and then we're going to add the percent. And effectively what we're doing is we are multiplying by 100. So let's look at this, the first one. We have 2/10. So all we have to do, take the decimal point, move it 2 places to the right, and then add the percent sign. So if we move it 2 places to the right, add that 0, we would have 20, then add the percent. So 2/10 can be written as 20%. So let's look at the next one. We have 3 84 hundredths. So to change it to a percent, go to the decimal point, move it 2 places to the right, that'd be 384, add the percent, so the answer is 384%. So now I want you to try this one. I want you to pause the video, turn these two decimals into percents. Unpause the video to see what I've done. Alright, so we have 5 thousandths. So if we're changing this 5 thousandths into a percent, remember we go to wherever the decimal point is, move it 2 places to the right, and add a percent sign. So we would have 0.5%, or this would be 5/10%. Now let's look at this next one. We have 3 91 hundredths. So all we would have to do is move the decimal point 2 places to the right, which is 391. Add the percent sign. So 3 91 hundredths written as a percent is 391%. Alright, so now what we're going to be doing is changing a fraction into a percent. Previously, we have changed a fraction into a decimal, and we just now learned how to change a decimal into a percent. So we're going to go the fraction into a decimal and decimal to a percent. So from here, what we will do, we write the fraction as a decimal and move the decimal point 2 digits to the right and add the percent. So we have 5/8. Long division time. So if we have 5/8, if we have our house, 8 goes on the outside, 5 goes on the inside. So 8 can't go into 5, so we have to add a decimal point and add the 0. So 8 times 8 goes into 50 6 times, so that'd be 48, minus 2, add the 0. How many times does 8 go into 20? 2 times, which is 16. Subtract that, that's 4. Add another 0. How many times does 8 go into 40? That is 5 times. So 8 times 5 is 40. 40 minus 40 is 0. So now we have 0.625, or 625 thousandths. So all that we have to do, we've made it into a decimal. So move the decimal point 2 digits to the right. So if we have 0.625, we need to move this 2 digits to the right, rewrite it, add a percent, 5/8 is the same as 62.5%. Now let's go to the second one. We have 1/9. Same exact thing. Write it into long division. So 9 goes on the outside with 1. 9 can't go into 1, so we add a decimal point. So 9 goes into 10 one time. Still we add the 0. 9 goes into 10 again one time. 9 times 1 is 9. Add the 0. Starting to see that it's starting to repeat. And it's going to repeat, repeat, repeat. So this is a repeating decimal. So what we could do, if we write this 0.1 repeating, all that we would have to do is to move the decimal 2 places to the right. If we rewrite it, it would be 11.1% with a bar over the 1, denoting that it is repeating. So this would be our final answer. So now what I want you to do is to pause the video and try these two for yourselves. Change the fraction into a percent. Alright, so we have 2/7. So remember, we are changing the fraction into a decimal first. So to do that, we have to complete some long division. So 7 can't go into 2. But 7 goes into 22 times, which is 14. 20 minus 14 is 6. Add the 0. 7 goes into 60 8 times. So 7 times 8 is 56. Subtract those. 4. Bring down the 0. So 7 goes into 40 5 times. So that's 35. That's 5 with a little left over. So 7 goes into 57 times, which is 49, with 1 left over. So what I want to do, I'm going to say, you'll see in your book, to round to the nearest tenth. So in that case, what I want to do from here is I want to move the decimal point 2 places to the right. So we have 28.57%, but I want to round it to the nearest tenth. So the nearest tenth, this 7 is greater than 5, so I'm going to bump up this 5 and make it 28.6%. Now if we go over to the one on the right, we have 7 over 200. This one is a little bit trickier, so let's set it up with long division. We have on the inside, we have 7, and on the outside we have 200. We know 200 can't be divided into 7, so let's add the decimal point. We know that and add a 0. We know it can't go into 0, or we know it can't go into 70. So let's first just add a 0 right here. Make sure that we keep our placement. So can 200 go into 700? Yes, it can. It can go into it 3 times with 600. So 700 minus 600 is 100. Add a 0. Drop it down. Can 200 go into 1,000? Yes, it can. It can go into it 5 times. So if we have 5 times 200 is equal to 1,000, so now we have 0.035. So all we have to do is just move the decimal point 2 places to the right, which would be 3.5. Add the percent sign. So 7 over 200, or 7/200ths, is the exact same as 3.5%.